Hey guys, I was just getting ready and thought I would go ahead and get ready with you guys because I don't really do these little chatty get ready with me's very often. Um, Today I am going for a job interview. Um, the reason I say it like that is because I don't necessarily want to get a job, um, but my youngest son needs braces and it's going to be pretty costly. And so to be able to help and take that burden off my husband, obviously, I am trying to get just a part-time job. Um, so basically, like my husband has talked about, because he knows, like I have anxiety issues and stuff, and I get very, like overwhelmed extremely easily, like with schedules and things, which is a big part of why I haven't worked outside the house in a while. And I have to say, actually, my last job that I worked outside of the house, I loved that job. I have never been able to say that about a job, but I loved that job. I worked, it was funny the way it happened. Actually, I was at our church camp in the summer, and one of my friends was like, yeah, one of our other friends and one of our other friends had been approached about working with this girl doing food prep because she was doing a freezer meal party company and needed people to do food prep for it. And so our mutual friend had asked her about doing it, and so she had said yes because she needed some extra income, but then in the meantime got some more babysitting jobs, and so and was also just kind of nervous about it. She's like, I am not a foodie. I'm not good with cooking. Like her husband cooks and stuff. So she was nervous about it. And we're talking and she's like, I think it's something you would probably be perfect for. Well, at the time, I wasn't necessarily like looking for a job because let's be real, I'm never really looking for a job. But we got talking about it and I thought, you know what, it almost sounds kind of fun. And the mutual friend that we had is my friend Jenny, who gets me all the Joy stuff, was the one who had suggested it to her. And so I'm like, I could be working with Jenny, like this could be great, right? So I ended up starting working that job and I loved it. Our boss quickly we became friends. Then a little while later, another girl got hired on, and it was just us four women in this kitchen a few days a week, cooking stuff and talking and laughing. It was the most laid back. It was hard work. You were on your feet all day, and we jokingly called me the pork queen because I was the one who like cut and weighed all the pork products. And so like we'd get those huge pork loins and I would have to weigh them into pork roasts and pork chops and stuff. And I got where I could do it by eye. Like I didn't even really have to weigh anymore. So thus the name Pork Queen. And it was just a great job. Like at Christmas time, we turned on Christmas music in that kitchen. It was a kitchen at a church that we were working out of. And the people who worked at that church were just so awesome and sweet. We created great relationships with them. We ended up starting to do once a week. We did a meal, like a big lunch for this Bible study group that would, be there. And so we got to meet those people and be part of that. And all of us girls who worked there were all Christians. And so it was just a really awesome job. It was like a dream job to me. I learned a lot of things about, cooking things and stuff like that. And it was just a really awesome job. I really, really enjoyed it. And unfortunately, it ended up coming one day. We were sitting having lunch and our boss just started crying and said, I need to talk to you girls about something. And basically it was that she actually is an engineer. She but had quit when she had kids. She has 4 kids. And her husband is still an engineer, and he was traveling a lot for work, and their youngest was in kindergarten, and it had become too much for her to do all of it with him traveling more with a new job and stuff. And so it was kind of like she just didn't really have the time to dedicate to the company anymore. And It just didn't feel like it was right to keep it going. And so sadly, that job came to an end that way. We are all still friends. Obviously, my friend Jenny and I are close friends anyway because we were before that. But, and it was just really sad to see that job go because it was a job I actually enjoyed. And I cannot say that about any job I've ever had before that. So after that, I basically just started, I had already been doing a little bit of babysitting in other people's homes before that, so I kind of just stepped that up a little bit, and that has basically been what, over the past few years, I've done to bring in some extra money. Between two different families, like the schedules worked out 2 different times, which was nice. I babysat in in the one in their home, and then the one in my home. The little boy was 5 months old when I started, and the little girl was 6 months old when I started. So I had, between the two of them, kind of, not a steady source of income, but something, something extra coming in. And so it felt good to be able to feel like I was, helping out and stuff. And because my husband would talk about with expenses we knew would be coming up with braces and that sort of thing, that maybe he should get a second job and stuff. And I was like, no way. You work so hard and whatever, and there's no way I was going to let him get a second job while I was just at home. That's not right. And plus there's already people who talk crap about me being home anyway, so I did not need that. But, which, by the way, I just want to say, don't judge other people's lives. If they, what works for one couple might not work for another, or one family. We have made choices over the years that we both wholeheartedly agreed to. We knew that when we had kids, we wanted me to be home with them. We didn't want to do daycare and stuff. And so, when my kids were little, it was when my second son, right before he turned 1, I stopped working. Because I was working midnights for 4 years, while my oldest was little and stuff. So once my middle son was a month before he turned a year old, I stopped working. And we just wanted me to be home. That was a collective decision between the two of us. And so that was what I did. I stayed home with my kids all through them being little. And then when my youngest son went into kindergarten, I started working at a school as a preschool aide at the school they were at, actually. And so it was it worked out perfect for us. And I did that for a couple years. Realized it just wasn't really my thing to spend all day with other people's kids like that. I love kids, but just not, that's not what I'm gifted in, I guess I should say. And, so I stopped doing that, and then I was babysitting for a while, and then I started that other job that I loved so much. And then since then, just kind of have been babysitting. And then recently, the girl I babysat, I went back to babysitting for her son last year, but they had moved, and so I was going to where they live. And she has summers off because she works in education. And so she had asked me if I would be willing to come back in the fall and watch him again, and I was just doing 1 day a week. So I said, yeah, that I would, And then she had said something about, because her parents go to Arizona for the winter, and so she had asked if I would mind waiting until they left and then start watching him. So I was like, sure, which she said would probably be sometime in October, but I still haven't heard from her. So I decided, I really thought it would be better for me anyway to get a job where I was out getting more socialization, just being around adults and talking. So I decided to go ahead and start applying to a few places, and get a call yesterday that, now when you see this, it will be past this obviously, but got a call yesterday about an interview. So I'm going to check this out. It would be much better than babysitting for me anyway, because I'll make way more money, and it's a super short drive from where I live instead of almost half an hour. So it would just be much better all the way around, I guess. Not that I didn't enjoy babysitting, but just realistically for what we need right now and the money we need, this would make much more sense. So that is kind of what's going on here, what I'm doing. So I'm not going to say where I'm going for the interview, sorry. But is it my ideal place to work? I don't think I would say that. However, it's certainly not terrible either. And like I said, where it's located is just beyond perfect. So it's somewhere where, you know, if I get out of work in time, I could get to, you know, my kids' sports things and stuff. And so that's really my main concern about working again is, not being able to, I'm so used to being able to go to all my kids' stuff. I've never had to miss things. I've just always been able to go to everything. And so for me, that is something that would be very difficult, is to suddenly not be able to be at their different events and stuff. So that is really where my main concern is, and my main dread, I guess you could say, about getting a job. I strangely don't feel like nervous or anything. Well, I'm not nervous anyway, because it's a job interview. It's not like it's some big, it's retail, so it's not like it's some, you know, like major type of thing. But also too, I feel very at peace. Like my husband's like, it's not like we can't make it if you don't get a job, so it would just be super helpful, you know. And so he's like, if you don't get it, you don't get it. Like, we very much believe that God puts us where we're supposed to be. So if I don't get the job, that's certainly not where he wants me. And also that if it gets where it's like just something that's way too much for me, or I am like dreading, you know, kind of thing, that it's not something I have to continue and be miserable in, you know. So that takes a lot of the pressure off. And my husband is just beyond awesome. I know you guys have heard me say that a bunch of times, but it's really true. He is so supportive and understanding, and he knows, like, obviously I don't want to make things harder on him, so I would do things that I hate, but I also am not someone who can hide my emotions, and so if I'm miserable, it's very obvious. Like, I have a hard time, I can't pretend like that I'm happy when I'm not. So, yeah, that's kind of, he can read me, so he would know even if I was miserable and was trying to just fake it, he'd know right away. And, we've done this before with different jobs where, well, not different jobs, the one job that I don't want to say what job it was, but I was very unhappy there, and I was trying real hard to just suck it up and make it work, but I got to a point where I just could not do it anymore, and it was very obvious to him. He would catch me sort of like crying at night because I wouldn't lie to him about it either. I told him I was like miserable and hated doing it. It just got where I was absolutely miserable there, and that wasn't good for me, it wasn't good for my family, and it wasn't worth that. So, it was basically like the whole second year of the job that I felt that way, and just toward the end of it, I was picturing, like, how can I keep doing this, you know? And, so that kind of ended that. And then a couple years later, I found that job that I absolutely loved, and didn't really find it. It found me. Well, I know God perfectly orchestrated that. And so that was really awesome, but I was very sad to see that job end, because I am sure if it hadn't, I would still be there doing that because I loved it. And so that's kind of my story on jobs. I mean, I worked all the time when I was in high school and stuff. And like I said, I worked midnights for 4 years when my oldest son was little. I actually worked in a group home for 4 years on midnights, and that was hard work. It was physically and kind of mentally, emotionally draining work. Before that, I worked in like an assisted living home, so my initial dreams were to go into like nursing and stuff, but I ended up deciding that wasn't really where I felt called to, and I still don't know where I feel called to, but it wasn't that for sure. But that was a lot of hard work and years that I have such great appreciation for people in those fields. They don't get paid much, and they do very hard work. And so it's just, yeah, I could never go back. I'm always like, I could never do that kind of job again. It was a lot. So, plus being an emotional person, it was hard for me to see people in certain circumstances. And like, unfortunately, a lot of those places are very understaffed, and so you have a hard time really getting to spend time with the people, and they need that so much. And so that was very difficult for me because I wanted to be able to spend time with people and let them know that they mattered, and it was like you didn't have time, and it was terrible. I hated that. So that was definitely something that I knew I had to get out of because it was too emotionally taxing for me. And then something that I know I could never go back to because it's just not while I have the compassion side to be able to care for the people well, I also have the, like, I don't know how to say it. I mean, obviously it's an empathy, but where I cannot handle watching, like, that people need certain things and I'm unable to give it to them when I'm there. And like, that was just, I hated that so much. So, yeah, so that was, I actually loved the one place, the assisted living home. There were a couple different types of shifts. Like, usually I was on days or afternoons, but I oftentimes would come in and do like a mid shift. And if you did mid shift, you gave showers and like painted the ladies' nails and stuff like that. And I loved doing that. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that all the time because it didn't make enough money and the shift itself was so short. But that was something I definitely enjoyed because it's the time you got to spend with them, just kind of pampering them and stuff. So that was cool. But that job ended in a scary way because, speaking of understaffed, there were 2 of us working and it was late at night. I was working afternoons, and we had a lot of like Alzheimer's patients and stuff that we had a couple that had like sundowners, and the house was shaped like a big like U kind of, and the one girl was at one end and I was at the other getting people ready for bed. And there was a woman who was like 90. I was getting her ready for bed. I loved her. And all of a sudden she said, oh, there's a man in my room. And I was like, oh no, and I turned around and this guy that was in there, he was a very large man. I'm a very small person. I'm not even 5'1". He was like 6'5", this huge guy, like my dad's size. And he had come in her room. So I was trying to, oh, come on, I'll be with you in just a second, but this is a ladies' room, like, you can't come in here. Well, we had actually been complaining for a while to the owners of this place that this man would get very like belligerent at night, and it was dangerous. He would like throw chairs and do things. We were worried about someone getting hurt, and like he needed to be medicated at night or something because it wasn't safe for us or the other people living there. And so he proceeded to get angry with me because I was asking him to go out of the room. And so he decided to corner me. And this woman, I felt so bad. It wasn't me I was scared for, it was her, because I was afraid she was going to have a heart attack. I mean, I was scared for me too, I'm not gonna lie, because it was scary, but I was very concerned for her because she just kept, like just freaking out, and it was making me feel terrible. And he took his belt off and he was telling me he was gonna bash my effing brains in and started beating me. And I was yelling for the girl at the other end of the house, but it took her a while to hear me. And so he had already hit me a few times, but not anything, major. But I was done because I had talked to them several times about this man and it being unsafe, and they did nothing about it. And so here's the audacity they had that I thought was interesting. I called my supervisor or whatever that night and said, this is what just happened. I have repeatedly, myself and other staff, let you guys know that there was an issue here that was going to end up being like major if something wasn't done about it. And tonight, you know, he did this, and I was worried about the safety of the woman, you know, whose room I was in, and I cannot work somewhere where the employees who work with these people day in and day out and really know what's going on with them are not taken seriously and listened to, and then put in dangerous positions because of it. And I said, so I am letting you know I will not be back. I mean, because this had been going on for weeks and weeks, I mean, probably over a month, that we had been talking to them about taking care of the situation or doing something about it. And the lady, this is what she said to me. After all that, after explaining what happened and everything, she said, but you're scheduled to work tomorrow. And I said, I'm aware of that, but I am also aware that there's other people who can come in and fill that shift. And I do not feel safe here. And so I cannot work in an environment where I don't feel safe. And she's like, but you're scheduled to work tomorrow. That's all she said. She wouldn't say anything about like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Like, nothing. Just, but you're scheduled to work tomorrow. Okay, so that made it very easy to say peace out, because I had been working there for well over a year. And I was fed up. I mean, it honestly wasn't even just that. That was just the major breaking point, because there were so many things within it that, you know, employees just were not listened to. Like, we were the people who were seeing the behaviors, who were seeing the needs of the people, and nobody, you know, administration and stuff would not listen. So it was just, like the one day I got called into the office because the supervisor decided she wanted to yell at me. She called me the mouse in this other girl's pocket, which I was like, what? Because I had complained about something with work, or, you know, whatever, something that was going on there. And apparently she had too, and I didn't even know it, but they accused me of just, you know, doing whatever she did and whatever. The supervisor I had was not a nice lady. And I was like, I don't even know what that means, but I'm just telling you what my own experience kind of thing. I'm not a complainer either. It like was totally things that were for safety purposes and whatever, but who knows? But so that was kind of some of my fun job experiences. I'm going to go ahead and finish my eyes because this is going to be forever long, and I'll be back to show you everything finished and just kind of wrap things up. Okay, my makeup is done. I'm ready to go to my interview. I didn't dress real fancy. Maybe I can try to show you here. Just get my stool over. So I just have like this little scarf on and a sweater. I'll stand up on it and show you. And then it's just a long sweater with these like army green color leggings. And then I'll wear my tall black boots with it. So that is my outfit for my interview. And I will be inserting here at the end whether I got the job or not. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, just kind of hearing some of my past with jobs and that sort of thing. And looking back, and I was thinking about this, I'm like, you know, that whole incident at that assisted living home where that guy beat me and I ended up quitting and whatever. I wish now, I was 19 years old, and so now in my 40-year-old mind, I am like, you know, I should have pursued this to make sure that things changed so that the people that lived and worked there were kept safe, that kind of thing. But again, I was 19, and that just wasn't the way my brain worked at the time. So unfortunately I didn't, and I honestly don't know what happened thereafter. Actually, one of my good friends that I met while working there still worked there for a while after, and there weren't any more incidents like that, thankfully. But you know, who knows now. But anyway, in hindsight, as I was finishing getting ready, I'm like, you know, I wish 19-year-old me had done something more about that. But also, I didn't feel like I was taken very seriously there as a 19-year-old either. So what do you do? But anyway, off to my interview. Wish me luck. I'll let you know if I got the job or not. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.